Welcome to the Cherland podcast, where I, Connor Cherland, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, talk about what kinds of experiences they're bringing into their musical expression. On today's podcast, we have Serg Efuni, a singer-songwriter who began writing songs at 13 after his family came to the U.S. as Russian refugees. After music college and working as an artist publicist, manager, Serg started pursuing his own material with his debut EP coming out hopefully this summer, TBD. On this podcast, you'll hear us talk about his origin story, value of competition, and his history managing other talent. Please enjoy Serg Efuni. Serg.
How are you, Connor?
I'm well. Okay, so we met through Marco at a gig in Venice.
That's right.
A few weeks back. These are what I learned. You have a beautiful voice. You have a cello player whose Instagram handle is Taekwondo.
That's right. There's a reason for that.
Taekwondo and cello are
That's right.
his two passions.
Shout out to Paul.
I learned that you are Russian. You sung a beautiful song in Russian,
Yes.
which was beautiful. And what else did I learn about? And you were friendly. You said hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my impressions of you.
Well, I think Marco attracts friendly, nice people, and a lot of my friends recently in LA I've met through Marco, and when I heard you play, my phone was immediately out, and I was just like filming it and posting it because I was just blown away by the marriage of technology and songwriting and singing and just kind of the sound you were able to build with all it was like a whole band up there. It was really,
well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was incredible.
So there's very little about you on the internet. I really looked.
Yes.
How do you say your last name?
So it's Efuni.
Efuni.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I really looked, and I'm glad that you sent me information about yourself just in an email beforehand, because
Right.
I was like, this is really
I'm not
helpful.
a Russian spy.
You're not a
promise.
Russian spy.
Yeah.
No, you've done interviews in the past, and you talk about moving to the United States as a refugee at 12 from Russia. I don't even know what that means necessarily, because my mom immigrated from the Philippines, but not as a refugee. She was her father was in the United States military, and that's how she got brought over. It was like on that bill. So when she describes what it was like as an 8-year-old to go to the United States, she says that she thought she was going to the moon. I don't feel like I get that, because I've lived in this country my entire life. What was it like as a 12-year-old to move under adverse conditions?
Yeah, I remember very clearly the moment when my parents. So I have a twin brother, and I'm the older twin brother. So my parents sat me down. I was like, because when you start this process, it takes years. So set us down when we were like 10, and they told us we'll be moving to America. And at that point, I had grandparents that were living in America for 10 years, 15 years. So the reason we're able to come over because we had family there.
Great.
Yeah. I was a very different person in Russia, but I just remember this sudden urge to cry. I didn't do it. I didn't cry. As a 10-year-old, I just knew somehow that my whole world was about to change. Then I remember they talked to me, and then a few days later they sat my brother down at the same table, and they told him exactly the same thing, and he just like broke down in tears, just like was bawling.
Yeah, because he's a younger baby.
Yeah. Sorry, Eugene. And he kind of expressed what I wanted to do in that moment. Yeah, and it just began this process of slowly saying goodbye to a lot of friends and family. And to be honest with you, the conditions that we moved out under were not particularly adverse.
Okay.
I think they were much more adverse for my parents. But as 10-year-olds, you're a kid, and Moscow is like New York. You're live in this big city. There's crazy stuff happening all around you. They made that choice, and they made that choice for their family, because they could have stayed in Russia, and we could have been okay. We're Russian Jews, and in Russia there's quite a bit of anti-Semitism, and my grandfather was actually had a special designation as a child of enemy of the state.
Whoa.
Yeah, because his father was taken to a concentration camp and murdered when my grandfather was 12 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah. So when that happens, the Soviet regime labels the whole family as family of enemy of the state.
Wow.
But despite that, he was able to have a fantastic career in Russia, and then eventually he was able to come over to United States as a scientist, and that's how he got here, probably like 15 years before we did.
Okay.
But nonetheless, that trails you. So we had several experiences with anti-Semitism, and my last name is not Russian. So and in Russia, when you have a last name that's a little bit different, it comes with certain baggage. So that kind of was part of it.
When you moved over to the United States, you've said before that part of so songwriting starts for you as you move here, and like just having more time, being a little bit more lonely, like you have that introspective time. How were you doing that? Did you like have a guitar or something? Were you just like in your room alone? You said that your first songs were like writing birthday songs for mom and dad, which is very cute.
Yeah.
What was that experience like, writing songs by yourself as a kid?
It was like really the only... It was like magic. I mean, I think, I'm curious if you had this experience, but I think the process of creating something beautiful from this instrument and also like your voice, and at that point in my life, like I didn't know anything about chords. I didn't know anything about singing. It was literally just making noises and putting them to chords, but really liking what was coming out. A big part of it was encouragement. I think for me, I got really lucky that at the moment when I started doing that, my parents were, we were all in this really high stress environment of just having moved to West Hollywood from Moscow. And we just were living in this like really shitty part of town. And it was very different. West Hollywood was very different back then. We all were like under a lot of stress. And I think they were just looking for something to encourage us. And when I started writing those songs, they were just like, yes, like we love it. I'm pretty sure it was horrible, but they were like, we love it. It's great. That was that little seed that I think that I hear a lot of other songwriters or performers talk about when maybe they get on stage for the first time and they get a good response from the crowd, and it puts that thing in their soul where they can connect with somebody through something they create.
Right.
And I think that was that moment for me. To back up a little bit, the way I actually got into learning how to play guitar was a couple years before I left Russia. I was a bad kid. I was didn't have good grades. I was all about just playing sports and being kind of a douchebag. And moving to America really changed me. But before that, I remember sitting in this auditorium in school with my friends, and there was a presenter presenting something to us, like in homeroom or something, and we were totally ignoring him, just talking amongst ourselves. And then this lady comes onto the stage with a guitar, and she's like, oh, and by the way, if anybody wants to learn how to play guitar, we're going to be teaching lessons on Saturdays at 8 a.m. every Saturday.
Cool.
And me and my friends, for some reason, decided to do it. We hated school, but we would show up to school at 8 a.m. on Saturday to like learn how to play guitar.
Jeez.
It was also my first experience with like witnessing talent, because there was this one kid, Dima. He might be listening to this because we're still friends on Instagram. I remember like we all were learning the same thing, but he just got better so much quicker than everybody else without like any background. And me just watching that and be like, wow, like how is he doing that? Like, why is he so much better than all of us? And then years later, looking back on that, it's like, okay, well, there's like not everybody doesn't start at the same spot.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
And what was his name?
Dima Parin.
Nice. Nice. Cool. So you're learning at a very young age. At a certain point, you go to Boyer College of Music.
Yeah.
Why did you want to go to music school? And then most people I know that go to music school do it to become performers or to like be writers or singers. But then immediately from there, you go into publicist.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to be a publicist like from the beginning, or like what was the intent, or like what drew you to the school, and then what drew you into
going to music school in retrospect were me fighting for my dream to be able to do music someday. Because before going to music school for 3 years, I was studying medicine. And I went to several different schools trying to get my medical degree, and it just wasn't the cards for me. I came from a medical family where hard sciences were the path of life. And while I have my father who writes poetry, nobody else was really into anything artistic. So growing up, there was expectation that you were going to go into medicine, and I just knew that wasn't for me. And I kept fighting for this dream of being a songwriter. And at one point, I literally had a dream, I'll be like a rock star and also a doctor on the side. And it was just
You know, a lot of those.
yeah. Yeah. And so I dropped out of one school and I went to the next one, and I sat my parents down and told them that I'm thinking of dropping out of college and I'm thinking of just doing music. They convinced me to go to school, to go and study, which I'm really thankful for, because I think musically, because I didn't grow up with it, I was really far behind, and I needed this sort of cauldron of just training that happened in those 3 years in Philly. By the time I got out of it, I was totally burnt out. I don't know if you ever had this experience, but when I was there, everybody was so much better than me that every day in classroom I was just panicking. Like, I just felt like I was so far behind, and it made me a lot better because I had to work my ass off. But then by the time I got out, I pretty much quit songwriting. I quit playing. I was teaching music a little bit, but an opportunity rose up where my sister had a friend who owned a music company.
Cool.
And she was like, why don't you go be an intern for this guy? And
Cool.
I started there, went to Gramophone Media, started as an intern, and about 12 months later, I was leading their artist development division.
Cool.
And it was a very important turning point in my life where I gained some self-worth as far as like a player in my circle of friends and colleagues. So, yeah.
If there's someone who is thinking of going to music school right now, like in a similar position, if you could talk to like young baby Serg and say like, you're going to burn out unless you what? Like what? Like how could you personally have avoided burnout? Or do you think that was kind of inevitable?
Man, that's such a good question, because I would tell myself, if I was already at a point where I was about to go to music school, I would say, go do it and then take a risk. Don't go into the industry side of things. Go into the creative side of things right away and take a risk. Because I think a lot of what I was doing was avoiding fear, where I worked in I worked as a music teacher, I worked at a guitar center, I worked as a producer, I worked as a publicist, as an artist manager, all along dreaming of being an actual musician.
Right.
What I was doing was just avoiding fear of like taking that risk. And I think I would have just told myself, take the risk, you know, failure is okay. And also it's so much more fun on the other side.
Yeah. So was it the actual like business of music that was burning you out, or was it just the feeling being in school and being like consistently feeling behind?
It was the consistent and steady failure that I experienced in music school, where it was just every day coming in, being so far behind. But when I got into the music industry, I think because I built up such a crazy work ethic from trying to catch up in music school,
right.
When I got into working at the music company, and the reason that I was able to advance so quickly was because I was working 12-hour days. Like I was showing up at 8 a.m., leaving at 8 p.m. after everybody left. And I did that for like 3 years. And
crazy.
And I didn't get burnt out then. It was inspiring to me. Like it was great to see the results of the labor that you're putting in.
Right.
But man, doing that and not seeing the results, like doing that every day for 3 years and still being like the weakest musician per se in the classroom, man, that like, I'll fuck with your head.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
No, do whatever you want. Yeah.
But,
no,
yeah.
I would imagine that would ruin your self-esteem.
Yeah.
But it's also like they're also working their asses off if they're doing it right, you know? So even if you have improved, they've also improved. So you can still feel equally behind, you know, 100%. When it's like you did move forward, but they also moved forward. It's like that would be really frustrating.
And also all of those people had those same feelings in different capacities. It's one of those things where you have to listen to your instinct, and sometimes you have to know when to quiet down the chatter and just focus on the goal and the opportunity that you're trying to pursue. Because looking back, I've since had conversations with a lot of those people, and they kind of echo similar sentiment. You know? Yeah.
What do you feel like you improved on the most in music school?
Theory.
Theory.
It's like I didn't know a lick of theory, and it just gave me a foundation of the kind of the boring stuff. Also, it gave me a window into what greatness really looks like. I think, you know, and not greatness enshrouded in popularity, but rather like true performance. I went to this for a year. I went to this small HBCU in North Carolina called North Carolina Central University that had Wynton Marsalis as their artist in residence who taught jazz, and they had a fantastic jazz department. In that school alone, there's probably like 10 musicians that to this day are some of the best singers I've ever met in my life.
Cool.
And it's witnessing that and realizing that there's a certain level of performance that you can achieve if you just work on it. And I think knowing that that's possible is really important, because then it gives you kind of a North Star, if you will.
Yeah, but that's also kind of intimidating to see some of the best people and being like, cool, shoot, well, maybe I'll be that good someday. But
So can I actually ask you a question?
Sure, go for it.
So I'm really curious. In one of your recent podcasts with The Social, you talked about how, great podcast, by the way, and you talked about how competition influenced your kind of relationship with watching other performers on stage, or like how you think about yourself when you are getting ready. I'm curious, did you start with sports and then you found music? Did it happen at the same time? Like what was the switch for you from one to the other?
Yeah, so I was like born into a sports family. Like parents met each other on a volleyball court, and then they made my sister a volleyball player, and then they made me a volleyball player. So like I was the one that like really wanted to like get a scholarship into college, and just like, but I'm short, and like my talent was like decent but not like truly exceptional. And so that's been, I've just always had this chip on my shoulder, because I've been like, well, you know, if I was 6'2", I probably could have played in college, and then my whole life would have changed. So, which is like terrible attitude to have about life. But when you're like born into this athletic circumstance, that's kind of it's like a very popular narrative to have. So being in music where it is competitive, like I think part of that is a right way of thinking, of being like, some people are going to be better than you. And don't you want to be better than them? Like, don't you want the job? Like, at a certain point, it comes down to, like, if you're better, you'll make more money a lot of the time. And so, like, what is your competitive edge? How do you learn to sharpen that in order to make a living as an artist, which is a hard thing to do. Granted, it's also extremely collaborative to be a musician, and it's, like, it involves kindness and, like, open-heartedness and, like, beautiful things like that. But then there is this element of, like, I need to have a legitimate reason why someone should hire me as opposed to someone else. And that, I mean, you should have that for any product. And like my music is a product that I sell. It happened athletics, then music, and now I'm also doing a lot of athletics as well with pickleball.
Pickleball.
Yeah. So it's been weird getting back into music, getting back into competition. But I appreciate you asking. Are you a competitive fellow?
Super competitive.
Super competitive.
Like, in a way where I just really love competition. It just makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I think it's kind of primal. Like it's something that, you know, is inside of all of us.
Yeah.
One thought I had about that conversation when I heard it was, I wonder if it's possible to shift that narrative instead of on competition to be better or worse between different performers, to rather the audience, where the way I've been thinking about it and really kind of hammering it with my band is, we are not doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for the audience. And the whole goal is to create something that will make somebody in the crowd or somebody in their car feel the same way that I felt when I heard my favorite artist for the first time, at a time in my life when I really needed that music. When I think about it this way, it kind of, like, for me at least, removes everybody else from the equation. It just becomes about the person that I'm trying to reach and what I can do for them. All the hard work, time, and dedication that I'm putting into it, it becomes a little bit less about me and a little bit more about the people that I'm doing it for, which I think removes some of the pressure of trying to win. Because what I found in a city like LA, man, there's a lot of great artists, and it's so it is so unique in this way. Like, I went to see somebody at Black Rabbit Rose, I don't want to put them on the spot, a few nights ago, and it's a kind of songwriter that just needs a guitar and their voice. She can just enchant an entire crowd effortlessly, and it seems like it seems almost unfair, like, how can you be so good so easily? you mentioned that kind of stuff intimidating, being a little bit intimidating. It's super intimidating for me when I see that, because my natural instinct is like, I want to compete against that. And I want to go home, practice my ass off, reach that. But in reality, to me, that feels like a trap.
Yeah.
You know? So that's
yeah.
how I think
No, I
about
agree. I feel like it's a bit of the tail wagging the dog in that scenario, in that like you have to, like, your engine is like your why, like your reason for doing what you do. Like, I write because I have to express what's on my heart, and I like to connect with people. As an adult, there are very few ways you're allowed to connect with people. And that's really frustrating for me everywhere that I go. Like, I show up to places and I ask very genuine questions, and people are like, "What do you want from me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm asking you a question." So I have to make a podcast so that I can ask people genuine questions, and they can be like, "Oh, I know why he's asking it, because he's making a podcast." This is a crazy way to get to know people, but it's like part of like this weird thing that we like. I have to get on. I can't tell you my feelings, but I can get on a stage and sing them through a loudspeaker with a guitar. Like, I don't get why, but it seems like one of the few ways I'm allowed to express my heart. So I have to do it that way, otherwise I'm gonna explode. So it's like, and I want more opportunities to do that. So I want to make it as cool as possible. I feel like that's really my why, and like why I want to. That's like where I find drive to compete in this area, because I feel like I have things that I feel like I'm very in tune with my heart and willing to show them. Those seem to be the people that I resound with the most, of like people who are just like really down to earth, expressing something true. I do want to get back to your story.
Sure.
So you were a publicist. You worked in A&D, artist development?
Artist development. A&R is a little different. Yeah.
Okay. So artist development, first off, what does it mean?
It means taking an artist who wants to put something out and helping them do so. And it is just a little bit more encompassing than, say, like something more specific like publicity or maybe like Spotify promotion. It's kind of like, think of it like a project manager. Like you just have, and it's actually makes a lot of sense that for me developed into artist management, because it's like the same thing, except, you know, you're getting paid a monthly fee instead of getting a commission, but you're doing all the same stuff. You're just trying to provide a plethora of services that all help the artists put out the best kind of product that they can.
Okay.
In my experience, it was working with artists that were just putting out maybe their first EP or maybe like their second single, and they were like super new. And to be honest with you, I was super new myself. So a lot of it was learning on the job. I'm like super fortunate that it happened to me, because I just watched so many artists take correct steps and also incorrect steps over and over and over again over a period of like 2 years. And now when I started this project, which began in January 2020, I think I just had a lot less anxiety about what I need to do, because I just knew that, you know, there's certain things I can do, certain things I can't do, and the things that I can do, here's how I'm going to do them. So it just gave me way more of a foundation to kind of start my own thing.
I imagine you are your own artist developer in
not
this,
by choice, but
not by choice.
necessity.
Yeah. In this stage of your career, how has that given you an edge, or like what are you really taking into consideration as you're about to debut your first, like, this is your debut EP coming out? What are you really focusing on from the development side?
For me, it's super important to not do it for any kind of like vanity or me reasons. And I know that it's all about me, because it's, you know, my music and I am the name. But it's really important for me to just focus on the audience, which means doing everything in my power to just put out something that's incredibly appealing to them. So everything that we're doing with the band, with you know, Paul and Lara and Jesse and Cameron, who's the producer, we've taken extremely long time and extreme amount of work to create just the best sound that we can in the studio. We've worked with some amazing musicians, which something I really appreciate about your music when I was listening to it is that like there's live drums, there's, you know, there's musicianship on the records, and that's something that's really important to me as well. And, you know, we're just starting now to film music videos. Yesterday we had our first film date for some content. It's like a live studio session. So it's just building up a lot of quality content so that we can release things that have inherent value. Because I think there's a big myth out there that if you know how to promote something real well, the thing doesn't have to be that good. That like if you're a great marketer, then you can sell anything. I think that's a myth.
Right.
I think if the stuff is great, then marketing it is like 20 times easier. So that's what we're going after. Like, everything is focused on just getting the best possible content, even if it's not a lot, but just things that will really connect with people. Then just putting them out. And if anybody out there is a marketer, hit me up because I need help with that.
What do you mean by that? Like when you're looking for a marketer, what are you looking for someone to do?
For me personally, I know nothing about social media ads.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know if you're good at that kind of stuff. But
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and I like, another thing that I run into a lot is artists being forced to and then choosing to wear a lot of hats themselves, like from doing social media ads to, creating their own posters to recording all their music and like doing everything themselves. And I also think that's an incorrect approach. I think building a team is like incredibly important and should be one of the first steps that like artists take when they start working on a project. So for me, it's really important not to have to learn a lot of new skills like halfway, you know, but rather find people that are interested in the project, that are the right kind of personality, that then join the team, and together the sum of the parts is much greater than the individual. It's about team building and finding, like right now I'm looking for a drummer and I'm looking for a marketing person, and I haven't found him yet, but I'm not gonna learn how to play drums. I'm gonna find a drummer,
Right. How have you been looking?
So a couple different ways. First, I always start thinking about who do I know. As soon as I think of somebody I know, immediately the next thought I have is they're way too good for me. I'm not good enough for them. They'll never want to work with me. The next step is I have to like really convince myself to like ask the people I really respect, because I think for me sometimes I struggle to go after people that I really want to work with, and because I have like some sort of internal narrative that like my project is not big enough or interesting enough for anybody who's actually awesome.
Right.
But I've been proven wrong by that at every step of the way from every single person that's on the team now. Like, I couldn't imagine working with those people 2 years ago. I think for me, it starts like thinking about who I know, asking them. If they're not available, then go to Facebook or Instagram. And I found so many people on Facebook and Instagram that I recommend it to everybody.
We're at the half hour mark, so it's a great time to shift into a song if you're interested.
Oh.
Would you be down to try it out?
Sure.
Hit Me Harder. Pretty intense title.
Yeah. It's it's not an intense song. It's
yeah. It didn't feel intense, and then I looked at the title and I was like, oh god. Okay, great.
By the way, all the songs you heard, they aren't out yet. So
right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's all, yeah.
But you did play a few of them at the Venice gig.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like down to play.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, grab a guitar and let's try it out.
So the song is Hit Me Harder, and it documents my journey from moving to America and then going through various trials and tribulations, including some difficult times. So it's called Hit Me Harder. I've been an older brother to my twin, I've been younger brother to myself, but since I went inside and learned to see the light, I've been Russian gypsy sent so far, from Oklahoma to Bed-Stuy, and I can say I knew a dream from deja vu. I heard she moved to Texas from New York. Are all my exes fans of George? It goes straight through my guard and stays and stays and stays. I've seen red, thunder and hail, go high, go low, we fight for sure. Swing for can even hate it. How I feel, stay medicated. Go toe to toe, won't hide no more. Went away, I came back a fire. Come alive when you hit me harder. And I've been a family member in a room, quite observer by the bed a few too many times. Ooh, and I heard the heavy under her word, a worried look worn by the nurse, and sensed that emptiness is laid where she had stayed. I've seen rain, thunder and hair. Go high, go low, we fight for show. Swing forth, can't even hate it. High fibs, stay medicated. Go toe to toe, won't hide no more. When awake, came back a fighter. Come alive, and you hit me hard. Go high, go low, we fight for show. Swing forth, can't even hate it. High fibs, stay medicated. Go toe to toe, won't hide no more. When awake, came back a fighter. Come alive, come alive. I won't do the rap for you, but thanks, Connor. Thanks for asking me to play. Yeah, it's funny you asked me to play this song because we recently stopped playing it in the live show. I work with this cello player named Paul Hyun. I basically like brought him into the band and I was like, actually, can you play bass on your cello?
Yeah.
We've been trying to figure out a bass line for the song. We just haven't been able to do it. So we kind of like took a step back from it. But now that we have the recording from the producer, we're going to listen to it and bring in like this whole new, brand new arrangement for it and bring it back into the set.
Cool.
So I haven't played it in a while, but I'm really excited to play it more in the upcoming shows.
Yeah, it's a lot of lyrics. It's a lot of losing your breath, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. For sure. That's some Ed Sheeran influence right there.
That's some Ed Sheeran influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy likes a lot of lyrics.
Yeah.
Though he does make a simplistic song as well. It's an impressive skill. One of the things I always like to end with is asking about books. Are there any particular books, authors that have been meaningful to you over the last couple of years?
Absolutely. I think the most impactful one I can think of is Gloria Anzaldúa. She wrote this book called The Borderlands. It's a book about growing up on the border of Mexico and Texas. Cool. And it's one of those founding texts of modern-day feminism, where she talks about what it's like growing up as this kind of person that's stuck in the border between two cultures, but also in the border between two genders, because she's also a lesbian. Not two genders, but kind of like in this, at that time, sort of not very talked about area.
Yeah.
And she has this incredible take on being an artist. And I believe she's still alive. I'm not totally sure, but she definitely was a professor at a university in Texas, I believe. She has this take on Western art versus non-traditional art that maybe shows up in Western cultures but comes from other cultures, like maybe like Native American art or art that you maybe don't hear like on the radio or see on the TV all that much. And her take is that in Western art, it's very capitalist oriented, where art is created as a means to attract an audience, generate money, and with a very clear monetary goal. Where a lot of art that she grew up with was very communal, where it was actually a form of just bringing people together.
Yeah.
She goes very in depth into that topic in the book, but when I read that, it was like looking in the mirror and like seeing something on my face, like where I was like, oh my God, yeah, like I definitely think about it that way. And it's definitely affecting how I'm creating, because I keep thinking like, what's going to be the biggest thing I can make?
Right.
When I think such an important part of it is asking the question, what is the thing that can bring the most people together? I recommend it to anybody who is interested in learning about feminism, learning about growing up on a border, because that's a border of cultures, because that's how I felt my whole life growing up on, being an immigrant, growing up on that cultural border, and just learn about what creativity are the uses for creativity other than getting attention or getting money or getting something from somebody.
Yeah. That's very cool. I like that. Do you have any either good advice you've received or bad advice that you've received about your music career?
Oh my God, the worst advice I ever got, and I'm not gonna put my buddy on the spot, but it's from a homie. And at one point, I was like asking my friend for help with style, okay? Because I was like, I need to look good, and he is like a really stylish person, and he came over and he like took one look at me. He's like, "Dude, you need to start wearing pants." Like in LA, people don't wear shorts, bro. Like it's
Oh
like,
man.
yeah. He was like, you gotta start wearing pants, man. And I really took it to heart. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like I gotta wear pants now.
Yeah.
And after a while, I was like, wait, what?
I would say at gigs on a stage, shorts are like a move. Like you better have like an outfit like that's around shorts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just look like a guy in shorts, you know.
You're showing
But
too
like,
much thigh.
yeah, I'm curious if there's a way that I can work shorts into like an actual performing
Okay.
look. You know, that'd be tight and it'd be cozy. Way better than wearing pants every time. But
it's also a move if like the audience is really close to you and
Yeah.
you're wearing shorts, because then they're just like staring at your thighs.
Yeah.
and it's a little discomforting
I'm
sometimes.
about it, man.
Yeah,
I want that. I'm into it. All right, cool. Good advice is wear shorts.
yeah.
That's
Be comfortable. Just be like, wear whatever makes you comfortable. Yeah.
Do you have any particular role models that you like, people who you look to and you say like, I want to emulate them either musically or just like in life?
I'm gonna steal a line from Matthew McConaughey. My role model is me in 10 years.
Oh man.
No, but for real, it's like
For real though, I love future me.
yeah, future me is dope. No,
Yeah.
for real, it's my dad. It's
Your
my
dad.
dad and my grandpa. Yeah, they're I think when you watch somebody do something selflessly over decades for their family or for people around them, and at the same time have like just like kick-ass like career or kick-ass like thing that they do outside of their family, like it's just so inspiring.
Yeah.
And it's like if I am able to have a family and at the same time pursue something I love, like I think there's no greater pleasure in love, in life. Yeah.
That's really sweet. It's a nice way to feel about your dad like that.
Yeah.
That's and then last question, either best gig or worst gig. You're welcome to go either direction.
Let's go with best gig.
Great.
Because we just had our best gig
Nice.
last Tuesday.
Congratulations.
And thank you. It was a first gig where we invited friends.
Cool.
Before that, we were playing. We weren't really telling people about it, just getting our sea legs. And we invited friends, and it was a cold Tuesday night. It was like, I don't know if you remember last week, it was like a cold spell for a few days.
Yeah.
And it was a cold Tuesday night. It rained the day before. It was at the Mint. And I texted all my friends and like family and colleagues for weeks before the show, just being like, yo, come to the show. I legitimately didn't know if anybody was going to show up. And then like everybody showed up.
Cool.
And I was just so overwhelmed. We had such a great time. It was so educational to really feel. I had a few gigs where we had a great audience, but to really feel how much a great audience plays a part in a great performance.
Yeah.
So yeah, that like we're like kind of still a bit on like cloud nine, a week later from that performance, because it was just so great. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And then this debut EP that you're hoping to put out, you're hoping to do it sometime in the summer. Do you have any specifics that you can give about when we should be looking out for things, or do you anything that you want to plug practically right now?
I just want to shout out my team, Cameron Rockty, Lyra Roizen, Paul Hyun. They have been such a great part of this creative process, and there's so many other people. If you'd like to learn more about any of these people, I constantly talk about them on my social media, which is at F and Serg on Instagram. Yeah, the EP is gonna come out when it's done. I long ago gave up like trying to set deadlines because it just doesn't work. So Cameron is mixing it right now. So as soon as the mix is done, we're gonna put it out hopefully like mid beginning of the summer.
That's exciting. Well, thank you so much for coming to my house. This is my house in LA. So
hey,
glad.
Congrats on this awesome new spot, and thanks for having me. This was amazing.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm able to come back at some point, and we're able to continue doing stuff together.
For sure. Yeah. Play some video games.
Yeah.
Drink. Awesome. I'll clap us out. Thank you kindly for listening to the podcast. It's really just an excuse for me to meet amazing people and learn from them. So if you like this episode, feel free to take a look at some of the other artists I've talked to, or let me know if there's someone in your life who's a musician that you'd like me to talk to next. You can learn more about my music at ConnorCherland.com, or find me on Instagram or Spotify under Connor Cherland, ConnerCherland. All right, see ya.